All right, what's up? Thomas here. I know I said I wasn't going to make any more tutorials, but I have been doing some one-to-one filmmaking coaching online, and this is something that kept on coming up for the members over there, so I thought I'd make this video to share with the wider world because I know a lot of people are struggling with this. How to talk to camera in public. At some point, if you're a filmmaker, and especially if you make YouTube content, you'll probably have to do this, whether that's being able to vlog in a public space, make videos like this, or whatever that might be. You're often going to have to come up and confront the situation of having a camera in public and not only filming, but potentially talking to that camera as well. So in this video, I'm going to support you with a few tips and tricks from mindset to more practical. Everything does start in the mind, so that is where we're going to start today. All right, mindset tip number one is that this is a process. This is what you're going to be thinking. It's not something that you suddenly are going to do and be perfectly confident at. This is actually a sliding scale. So right now you might be like a 2 out of 10 on that sliding scale, and you might be like quite nervous. You might be like thinking, wow, even the thought of going outside and doing this is very scary. Or you might be already a 5, you've done it a couple of times before, but you've done it in more secluded spots. You're trying to shift that scale and become more comfortable with more chaotic environments. So you're kind of treating it like exposure therapy. So the first step might be to talk to camera in your room or in your house. If you haven't done that before, that in itself is kind of weird and something to get used to. Number 2, you might go somewhere outside, but there's not very many people around. And in that situation, it's going to be one more step outside of that comfort zone. Once you've done that a couple of times, then it's time for step 3, which is to go somewhere that's public, there's people around, but not too many. And bit by bit, you're going to be introducing yourself to slightly more and more chaotic or crowded environments until you reach the stage where you feel pretty comfortable doing this in any environment. All right, what's up, guys? How you doing? So Tom here in Elborn. So what this is going to enable you to do is focus on the process of this a little bit more, rather than viewing it as either you're good at it or you're bad at it. This is an improvement process. And as I said, we're viewing this like exposure therapy. So you're exposing yourself to talking to camera in public bit by bit, going from a place where there's not too many people to going to places where there's more people, where you might feel more outside of your comfort zone, slightly more nervous. Mindset tip number 2 is asking yourself, what are you actually scared of? This is quite good to get clear on. Like, why is it scary? Why is it something that you feel like this is uncomfortable, uneasy, awkward, whatever that might be? You're basically drawing more attention than you normally would. You have more eyes on you than normal, therefore more judgment than normal. And that judgment is going to be good or bad, whatever that might be. So whatever you're used to, walking down the street, you're just walking down the street, how many people are going to be looking at you? Quite a few probably. Not like everyone's staring at you, but people look at people, right? So there's going to be some people just looking at you, looking away. Even on a normal day, people look at people, right? So you're getting judged, whether you like it or not. People are going to be thinking their own thoughts, good or bad, about you, and that's just a fact of life. And if you're really sensitive to that, it can just be something that is incredibly paralyzing, because if you're so sensitive to all of those judgments, it's almost like you can't move out of fear of being judged. What having a camera on you does is usually attract a few more eyeballs. Now, it's nothing crazy. It's not like everyone's literally going to be looking at you, which is something that you can sometimes imagine that won't actually happen. But what might happen is that a few more people will probably walk past you and do this. And that's about it. Very rarely will anyone do anything more than that. That's the only difference. It's going to be slightly more people looking at you for 1 or 2 seconds longer than they normally would. You've got to get used to it. It's a process. However, it's also very useful to realize that people, they just don't really care. No one cares. They'll look at you for 2 or 3 seconds, turn their heads, and then forget about you, move on with their day. Think about the cake that they want to eat. Or they think about what their mum's uncle, sister said to their ex-boyfriend's girlfriend last night. All of these things that are wrapped up in their own lives, they'll forget about you within 10 seconds. And whilst that can sound slightly depressing, it's also very empowering, knowing that actually all of these eyeballs, all of this judgment doesn't really exist. And now a quick word from today's sponsor. Throughout any vlogging section in the video you've seen so far, I've been using the Wavo Pro by Joby. This has genuinely been an incredible experience and one of the most user-friendly mics I've ever used. I think you'll agree that the sound is super clear and crisp, which is powered by their broadcast level audio hardware. Other things I really like are the LEDs, both on the front and the back, that show whether the microphone is on or off. Sounds stupid, but so many mics do not have this. The LED at the back also gives you a quick glance as to whether the audio is clipping or not. There's even an app that gives you control of the EQ on the go, which I've never seen before actually, and which also lets you create your own presets, implement them, and share them with your community. It also has active noise reduction, which removes bumps, shakes, and vibrations from when you are filming on the go. By far my favorite feature is the rechargeable battery that lasts for 60 hours of continuous recording. Up until now, all of the mics that I've used have used AA or AAA batteries, which to me just feels super outdated, a bit of a waste, and is very inconvenient. So this being rechargeable and having such an intense, amazing battery life is a big win. Feel free to check out the Wavo Pro and Joby's range of other mics in the description below. All right, let's get onto some more practical tips. Practical tip number 1 is going to be focus. So for this, what you're going to want to do is keep eye contact with the camera and not pay too much attention to your surroundings. What this is going to enable you to do is keep focused, keep attention on what you're saying, and actually block out all of the stimuli and distraction around you. Now this is super, super important because otherwise you're going to be distracted by everything and everyone. Everyone is going to be turning heads, looking at you, etc. And instead of being distracted by them and letting that throw you off course, you're just locked in, you're focused on what you're doing, and you're not focused on what other people are thinking, doing, saying, or whatever. If you actually don't break eye contact with the camera and start talking, then you can start finding yourself in this kind of flow state where you're not really looking at anyone else. You might notice people walking around here, but you can kind of maintain a dialogue with the camera and more or less say what you want to say. One interesting caveat to this links to the exposure therapy idea. The other day I was actually walking around this area at nighttime and I was purposefully filming myself like this but making eye contact with everyone. And what this did was like really make me feel uncomfortable for the first 5 seconds. Like you're vlogging, you know people are looking at you, and instead of trying to ignore them, you're like looking at them and you're making eye contact with everyone. This is such a great game. And that can be like extreme exposure therapy, but after that, I can tell you, I felt amazing. I had no like barriers, no kind of flow issues, and that really reduced my sensitivity to everything, and I felt like very empowered. I could do anything I wanted, and I started making some friends.
Yo, what's your channel? Yo.
Thomas Alex Norman. Are you guys visiting?
What?
Are you visiting?
No.
You live here?
I'm from Barcelona.
Ah, qué guay. Qué bien.
¿Hablas español?
Sí, claro. Yo he vivido aquí hace 6 años ya.
Está
Sí.
bien. Somos de aquí nosotros.
Ah, qué guay.
¿Qué tipo de vídeos haces?
All right, practical tip number 2 is to freestyle. You will run into the issue, undoubtedly, of what do I even say? This can be trained at home. This isn't necessarily directly linked to talking on camera in public. However, there is a certain aspect of when you talk to camera in public, it can make you freeze up a little bit more, and this issue kind of becomes more prominent. You're like, what do I actually say? What do I want to say? How do I say it? If I mess up, will other people see me messing up? These kind of thoughts. So my answer to that is really to freestyle. If you think about like a freestyle rapper and how they would just freestyle words and just be saying stuff that comes off the top of their head, right? This is kind of the state that you want to be in. You just want to keep on talking without any barriers to that. And that's going to allow you to just plow forward. And a lot of the times what will happen is you might literally be thinking to yourself, as you're talking, this is stupid, I don't know what I'm saying. But if you just keep going, a lot of the times actually in the edit, it works. And you realize like, oh, I was actually saying something that kind of made sense and it was actually kind of appropriate to the situation. And if not, don't worry, you can just edit it out. So really the tip here is to try and learn to just talk off the top of your head at home, and then talk off the top of your head also when you are talking to camera in public. All right, tip number 5 is more general. It's kind of both practical and mindset, and this is learning how to recognize and manage your own state. Now, I do have something to admit. I as well sometimes feel a bit unconfident and a little bit nervous when it comes to talking to camera. It's true. I know you didn't think it, but it's true. In all seriousness, the times where I'll be feeling nervous is not because of lack of experience or some of the points I talked about now. It actually relates to this point, which is I'll recognize that I'm in a less social and more like closed state. And this is normal, right? Even for extremely extroverted people, even they will kind of sometimes feel more introverted than other times. Whoever you are, it's really important to be able to recognize your state of mind and then learn how to change that as well. Quick example, if you've been working all day, you haven't seen anyone, you've just been on your computer, you've been in a very logical frame of mind, and then you're like, right, now it's time to talk to camera outside, and somebody points the camera at your face, you might just be like, I'm very unconfident, this is super awkward, I don't know who I am. But if you've just been maybe in a bar with friends and you're having a great time, not because you're drunk, but because you're being very social, and then somebody points a camera at you, you might just be naturally more free and flowy, right? So learning how to manage the state can be really important. So when it comes to talking to camera outside, what can be really useful is doing things like going for a run before, which gets you more in your body, gets you more flowy. You could also do things such as shaking your body and breathing, these kind of like bioenergetic exercises that can kind of calm your mind, get you in your body, and when you are in that state, it's going to be much easier to deliver on camera than if you're like really overthinking and analyzing everything. All right, big thanks again to Joby for sponsoring this video and making this happen. And if anyone is interested in the Wavo Pro mic, then that is in the description below. In the description, you'll also find a link to join my mailing list where I give you tips and tricks and also email you about exclusive opportunities to join the one-to-one coaching program. All right, until next time, keep filming. Bye-bye.